Hello YouTube, my name is Tristan. I'm 22 years old and I am a college graduate from the desolate pit of despair known as 2020. You guys are probably watching my videos all like, who the fuck is this guy? Hey, mini lad's apology video. This entire video is going to be dedicated to Nathaniel Drew, the guy who did the video, why not going to college was the best decision. Is that what it's called? Not going to college was the best decision of my... I think going to college was probably not a great decision for me. I'm not really sure exactly how this all starts, but Nathaniel Drew's like, yeah, I didn't go to college, I feel great, I got a head start, and I'm like, well, great, that makes me feel terrible. So, I have the opposite of a head start. I don't know what that's called. I don't really care what it's called. But the reason I ended up going to college was actually, it's a bit of a long story. I'll do my best to shorten it. This might end up turning into like a 25-minute video, so please forgive me if it does. Initially, I was like, I don't really want to go to college. I don't want to go into debt. I think $60,000 in debt with an art degree sounds like a bad idea. So maybe if I stay here in Milwaukee and move around, maybe save and then somehow start my own business or become a YouTuber, hello, be better off. That was just hypothetically thinking at the time. But everybody in my social circle was like, no, you should go to college. Look, man, it's a piece of paper that says I can do something. I can prove to people that I can do something without that. You know, you smell what I'm stepping in? Well, it's a piece of paper with which you can get a very good job, and if you end up foregoing that, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. Oh, really? Well, I didn't really think of it that way. Well, fuck, I better go then. And I heard that like 1 or 12 times, and I gave in. I gave in because, look, neither of my parents graduated college. I come from a blue-collar family, so they were all like, go to college, Tristan, get that education. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go to college, okay? Just, I will put my trust in you. I applied to the Rhode Island School of Design in 2016. Like, in a day, I decided I was gonna go to college. I did my entire application in 12 hours. Sent it, like, the last day I could, because any more days then I probably would have missed the deadline, and then, the entire trajectory of my life probably would have been different. That's why I ended up going. And now I kind of wish I had stuck to my guns and thought about it more, because I went to college because I capitulated to social pressure. I didn't go specifically because I wanted the degree, but rather I was running off the classic boomer Gen X idea that if you don't go to college, you are essentially setting yourself up for failure. That's no longer true. Apparently that's if you don't graduate high school. But if you have a high school diploma or a GED, the chances are that you will be fine are pretty high. At least that's what I hear. And I wish I had kind of done my research on that a little more. Moving on. So I am really into anything that's not mainstream. Even if it means being an idiot in the process, I like to question, because there's just something wrong with me that hinders my ability to go along with the mainstream. I can't do it. So when I say I like to question things, I mean, I've been doing this since a young age, probably since at least 3, 4, I don't know, sometime before I even became sentient. And like, I would be in class with my best friend and he and I would just decide to be dumb and say things for a shock value. Because we found it funny! Alright class, this is Pythagorean theorem. I don't know what that is. What, are you retarded? Tristan, you can't say that. What, retarded? If you say that word one more time, you will get detention. I still don't know what that is. Hold on a second. Just hold on. Look, you can't use that word, okay? But my dad calls me retarded. What I found in college is like, okay, so I came from a half conservative, half like liberal background. My parents are divorced and both of my parents are like diametrically opposed in almost every regard politically. So that meant that I had a strange understanding of politics from a very young age. I didn't know what the school was about. I was too poor to visit it. I didn't know anything about the people. I was just like, it's an art school, it's prestigious. Why not? I'll just go there and learn how to draw. Ta-da! Ta-da! I know how to draw torsos, everybody. That's what I went to school for. I thought of it as a trade school, but I didn't really think of the actual atmosphere, the campus, the kind of person who's supposed to go to the school. What I found at RISD is people are very passionate about their progressive views. When you do cross that threshold and you say something that might be like politically incorrect, it's not really met with a lot of praise. People are like, oh, so you're racist, huh? No, actually, I'm just funny. No, you're racist. I got class, man. I didn't understand the culture, and because I didn't understand the culture, I said things that people weren't okay with, and immediately I was ostracized by the entire student body. Like, I remember taking an anthropology class, and we were talking about, my professor was describing a story of some group of people from Mexico illegally crossing the border to go to Washington so that they could work on some farm, some place where you grow things. And I remember thinking, this is kind of weird. I just wanted to ask a question. So my professor was like, and so they went out to Washington so that they could work on the farm. Yeah, you. Why didn't they seek asylum? What? Why didn't they seek asylum? Like they could have come in a different way. I don't know. Like I'm wondering. Oh my God! Jesus Christ! God, so ignorant, asking questions. Jeez. And so yeah, I ran into this problem a lot, where like I would ask a question because I was just genuinely interested in something that was maybe a little bit off topic, and then everybody would assume that I'm trying to like undermine their belief system, something. Okay, like I could think of another example. Like, okay, so I made a piece on Notre Dame, and I'll make a story about this, but I was there for Notre Dame when it burned down like 2 years ago, and the piece was sort of disturbing to the Christian viewer. There was like this guy in the class, like who ended up pointing this out. It was because it was Notre Dame burning in flames, and then there was a lady screaming out in front, like, ah! And so they're looking at it, and this is what happens. Oh, this is very interesting piece that you've brought in today, Tristan. Did anyone have any comments? Ah, yes, Jonathan. Yeah, I don't know, Chief. I don't know if I'm feeling this, kind of burning church. This offends me. It's really offensive. Ah, yes. Well, the church is burning, and there seems to be sort of a satirical remark on the lady's face. Fair enough. Jennifer, yeah, you want to say something? Well, good sir, if you take into account that this piece is denigrating the biggest religion in the United States, well, we might as well look it up as punching up in the social hierarchy. Yes, of course. So, because we're doing that, it's quite justified. So, I'm very much into this, and therefore it's not offensive. Yes, of course. Hold on. Hold on. Look. All right. So we're talking about offensiveness. This piece is offensive to you, Jonathan, but to you, Jennifer, it's not. You like it. You do like it. So that must mean that this is a question of subjective taste, meaning there's nothing objective about offensiveness. So that means if we call something offensive, we have to think of the possibility that maybe it's not offensive to somebody else. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what he's talking about here. Why don't we move on to the next piece? I would try to open up these dialectics in school, and my professors would just kind of look at me like I'm speaking Latin, and then totally cast me aside because, let's face it, man, I mean, professors are so afraid of offending students at these schools that they don't want to lose their jobs. And I'm probably like their worst nightmare, like the one kid who's just so open to talking about anything that he'll probably start the discussion that will cost the professor said job. And like when I would try to talk about it, it just fell apart. Just nothing happened. Because the professors would kind of like hurry into the corner and pretend that they didn't hear me. And I'm like, all right, well, f me then. So where I sort of feel at the moment was, if I had maybe done a little bit more research as to what kind of college I was going to go to, I might have had a better experience. But for you, Mr. I'm going to college, if you're really gonna do it, if you're gonna go to a school and you wanna be around other people, I suggest doing your research, because my God, man, I didn't feel like you could ask questions. I didn't feel like you could ask anything without people just deciding, nope, you're a bad person. You are morally inferior to me, and therefore I have every right to write a 4chan thread about you and destroy your life. So, what else? So, I kind of went to a trade school. I went for illustration. That's right, I went for design, drawing, you know, anything having to do with poster making, storyboarding, taking a pencil and going, that was what I studied. And like, I was not terrible at drawing in high school. Looking back, I feel like I was more proficient for my age then than I am now. This regards my loss of passion for art when I was in school. I went to school because I wanted to learn how to draw. I just wanted people to teach me, and say, oh, this is the shading that you're gonna do. This is how you make a good composition. This is how you mix paints together so that you can do a proper oil painting and create something in the likes of like Bouguereau. Just throwing an academic name out there. As time went on, I slowly realized that it wasn't just about technique, but there was also an element of narrative. There's story. There is the presentation of your work, like on the wall. There's critique. Taking in all these factors, I guess I kind of put 2 and 2 together and recognized, oh my God, as an illustrator, I am losing the voice I once had in my drawings. So this is something that I did in high school. Here's something that I did in college. You see the difference? Yeah, you do. And all of it has to do with the loss of passion throughout the course of those 4 years, because I went from like, I want to learn how to draw and be just like Leonardo da Vinci. I'm the smart artist. Hey everybody, look at me. I can... To, my God, I just want this fucking class to be over. I hate my life. Why am I here? Why the fuck? Why are you doing that, man? That's just... Assignment after assignment with the purpose of teaching me how to work for clients. That's right. As it turns out, I need to prostrate myself to the capitalist society, the capitalist system that we live in, and just shut the fuck up and figure out a way to make money off of the one thing I'm good at. And the irony is, like, I went to college because I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I can find that job I want and finally do my shit. And then, like, it just turned out that it killed my passion. It slaughtered the motivation I had to become a good artist, because I was no longer making art for myself. I was making art for my professors, for my classes, for my portfolio. I was removed from the creative process. Half of the work I did, I wasn't even there for it. I was just like, yeah, I just hope this gets a good critique, please, my God. Illustration was not just about technicality. It was also about marketing yourself, knowing what you wanted to do outside of school, and I don't know, just, I guess, not being me. Because being me is, I feel bad for that. So starting from my sophomore year, I would go into class and my teachers would be like, draw an alliteration. So all of these kids would listen to the professor who gave them an assignment. They'd make an illustration that followed the theme, and they'd bring it in next week. And I can't tell you the amount of times I would walk into class, and there would always be that one guy with this fantastically sketched, painted, composed illustration on the wall, and we're all just ogling it like it's some masterpiece, and we're all curious as to how the person created it in the first place. And as a competitive person, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but this just reminds me how much I'm probably not even in the right place in the first place because I didn't do my research. And I would continually just turn in crappy work that nobody liked, and everybody would just, like, I would put my stuff on the wall and I could just see it in people's faces. I'd be like, whereas everybody else just looked dead on the inside, hoping that the critique went quickly so that we didn't have to talk about the work. Right. So for you, if you're gonna go to an art school or a design school, like, do your research, man. I decided to choose it the last minute because of a lot of peer pressure around me. You're probably gonna get a decent dorm, maybe not a great dorm. You'll have a meal plan, and then you'll be in a bubble of people who are all part of your school who are removed from the surrounding environs. And so what that means is you're only around professors and college students. And if you don't do an internship, or if you're not from the area, you're not going to get a lot of exposure to people who don't live in a college bubble. And so what ends up happening is you get comfortable in that college bubble, you take for granted some of the services that you can exploit, and then you kind of delay some of the adult responsibilities that you probably should be developing, in the meantime. I lived on College Hill. I could just walk down the street over to the Metcalf and then pick up some pizza and about, and then go back to my dorm and watch TV, watch my computer, watch some. And this apartment I was living in was on my tuition, meaning that I didn't have to sign a lease, I didn't have to call a landlord, I didn't have to make any sort of appointment to get the place. It was just part of the deal. So you get an entire living package from the college, and so what I kind of felt like was after you move away from mom and dad, the college in a certain sense becomes mom and dad. You have an apartment, you have a meal plan, you're in a safe space of people who aren't going to, well, hopefully aren't going to judge you and ruin your life. You have a routine, which is obviously provided to you by the school. And what ends up happening is, instead of signing a lease for your own apartment, I don't know. In my case, I could have had an apartment my senior year, but that's, we'll talk about that. I was in a college dorm for 4 years. I never really had to cook for myself, so there was no incentive for me to learn how to cook. I felt like my classes didn't properly prepare me enough for a real work environment, and it was too, the bubble was just, I can't place my finger on it exactly, but there's something about being at RISD where once you left RISD, you're like, you feel something changes. You don't know if it's the air, if it's the people, if it's the buildings, if it's just the street signs, or some kind of admixture of all of those. But you live in a bubble, and that bubble makes you comfortable, and therefore you don't really get a true college experience of being far away from home and really having to develop your responsibilities. At least in my case. I mean, I'm still young enough to kind of hopefully figure out something, but man, I mean, I'm thinking about all of these things for the person watching this video, and I want you to know, if you're going to a college, one, consider Skillshare. Consider that the internet is now a place where you could teach yourself basically anything you want. I hear about Skillshare all the time from YouTubers I watch, and it's actually pretty amazing that, we've gone from not really being able to do anything without a higher education to you can learn basically whatever you want because the repository of all human knowledge is right in front of you at your fingertips. And if you're smart, you should be able to navigate your way to learning whatever thing it is that you want. So in some sense, instead of, spending 3 to 4 years in college getting a degree in, French or English, you could just go online and find methods of acquisition that are probably a lot more efficient than what you would get paying $20, $30, even $70,000 for a stupid degree. And then also, if you do decide to go to college, it is imperative that you do research about your college prior to going so that you know the atmosphere, know the people. Also, I recommend eventually getting in apartments, getting a job, maintaining some kind of lifestyle while you're in school and not letting it sort of babysit you. I feel like I kind of made that mistake because I got too comfortable, and also has to do with some of my anxiety, and I'm sure that some of you guys have caught on. I'm not entirely not anxious. I phrased that pretty badly, didn't I? Thank you so much for somehow getting to the end of this. So if I'm just I don't even know if you're gonna get to the end here, but if you have, just hear me out, man. I have nothing against the people I went to college with, but rather I think it's more a matter of having a good knowledge basis of the school you're going to enroll in before going there. Like, either visit it. Alright, that's all